Hi, this is your mentor Enchantress. Welcome back to ZEPETO Class. Today we are discussing all about Unity conversion. So I will discuss the submission guidelines for items in ZEPETO Studio, as well as the most common Unity errors that you will encounter or you may encounter whenever you do conversions here in Unity. So here, I prepared a file that I can use so I can show you those common errors in Unity. Let me just delete this one. And I will import this file, and then I will assign the material as we should always do. And then apply, and go ahead and convert this to ZEPETO style. And then there. So this is one of the most common Unity errors that most beginners encounter when they do conversion. So as you can see, when I tried to convert to ZEPETO style, it was not successful, and you will see that there's a test clone that is showing up in the scene, and it's all gray. The avatar skin is all gray. So this is one of the most common Unity error. You are not able to convert your FBX file into a prepub file. What is the main cause or the reason why this is happening? For this one, you have to go back to the software where you exported the FBX file. And then you have to check the mask. It's always the mask. If you have this problem, it's always the mask. So it's either that you use the mask that comes with the creator base set and you did not, or you fail to unbind it from the hips. If you do that, you will most likely get this error. How can you fix it? Of course, as I mentioned in our previous tutorial regarding rigging, you should always unbind the mask. If you use the one that comes with the creator base set, you have to unbind it from the hips. So how can you do that? Again, guys, let me show you how it's done. So you have to click the mask and then go to rigging here, and then go to skin and then click unbind skin. So let me just open this box. So you make sure that the delete history is selected, and there. So detach, or just click the unbind skin if you already set that up before, and it should be unbinded. And then after that, you have to make sure that this is not locked. So since you already unbinded there, the history has been deleted, so you just need to unlock it here. So make sure that you shift select all these locked boxes and you right click on it and then unlock selected. And make sure that you also center pivot and freeze transformation. If you unbind the skin and the settings for the delete history is already selected, you don't really need to delete history here. It's okay. You just need to unlock it here. But for the dress, it's okay if it's locked since it's binded to the hip. So whenever you bind an item to a skeleton, it will become like this. It will be locked because it's binded to the hip, so it will always follow this. But for the mask, it needs to be unlocked here. And make sure that you freeze transformation. That's one of the most common opportunity that I noticed when you submitted me your task, my mentee. So again, do not forget this. Delete by type, it only works on the item selected in the outliner box. And delete all by type, it will delete every history in your scene, in your entire scene. So you have to be careful in using this. I only use this a lot before I do the rigging work, but after I finish doing the rigging work, I'm very careful not to choose this one. It will delete the rigging work that I did with the item, and you already know that rigging is not easy, right? I don't want you to waste your time and effort like doing it all over again, so you have to remember this. That's the important rule. So now I'm gonna export it and see what will happen. So let me re-import it again in Unity. Re-import it. Okay, so as you can see, it was converted to ZEPETO style, but let's see how it will look like. Whenever you do conversion in Unity, you should always check it under the loader box so you can see if there's any error, especially when there's like boundary on body. There's actually like a slight boundary here, but we're not focusing on that. So we're focusing on this. So this is what I'm telling you about regarding masking work. This is the main reason why masking is very important, because if you created a skin that has smaller waist or smaller parts compared to the default mask or the default avatar body, then this will happen. So the skin will show up or show through your item. So we're trying to avoid this because this will cause your item to be rejected by ZEPETO when you submit it like this. So you should always make sure that you complete the rigging and the masking work before you convert to ZEPETO style. So it's very important, guys. You should not miss on the masking part. So again, how you can fix it, you have to do the masking work. So go back to modeling, make sure that you paint this white first. Just select the mask here in the outliner and just click white and flood it. And then the next thing that you need to do is always to select only the parts that will be hidden inside the clothes. Let me do that quickly. Okay, so you have to make sure that the mask paint is not beyond the item that you are creating. So once you finish masking, you can now go ahead and export it. And let's see now how it will look like in Unity. It will definitely fix that error. It successfully converted to prefab file. Let's check in the loader if it will turn out okay this time. So it's turning out good. You want to make sure that you are not missing the masking work. And then let's now convert it to or export it as a ZEPETO file. And let's try to submit it in ZEPETO Studio. So this is just a test, just to show you what are the common errors that you may encounter whenever you do or whenever you submit to ZEPETO Studio. So this is one of the other errors that you will encounter. The number of bones do not meet the criteria. Why are you getting this error? So as I mentioned in our rigging lesson, you have to make sure that the bone is not above 100. I already showed you how to see that here. So you have like a command prompt that you must enter in Maya so you can determine how many joints are in the scene. So you have to check that. You have to visit my rigging tutorial so that you can access this code. So go to Windows, General Editor, and Script Editor, and copy paste this and click play. You see that it's 104 joints. So you have to make sure that you are deleting the joints that does not have influence on our item. So here it's obvious already what joints needs to be deleted. So those are the joints that are in dark blue color, so that means that it has no influence on your dress, so you have to delete those. The colorized skeleton needs to stay here, so do not delete the one with colors. Let's see now how much bones or how much joint are in the scene. So there's only 41. So now let's redo the conversion. This is the reason why I had to put this lesson at the very end, because I need to show you, or I need to teach you all that you need to know when you're creating your 3D item, so you don't have to go back and forth between Maya and Unity. Whenever you get this error, you have to make sure that you're doing the 3D creation in that sequence. So 3D modeling, UV mapping, normal mapping, ambient occlusion mapping, then rigging, and then masking, and before you export it to an FBX file. Make sure that you do not miss any step. If you miss any step, you will definitely get an error whenever you submit your item in ZEPETO Studio. Okay, so now that I fixed that issue with the bone count, I already fixed that. I already converted it into prefab file, and then I also exported it into a ZEPETO file. So now let's try to submit it, and let's see if it will fix the issue. I am getting now a different error. I did not get the error about the bone count, but now the error says that the total storage for texture exceeds 1 MB. So why does this happen? So you have to check all the texture file that you put into your material. So you have to check this. Okay, so you can see that it's 512 by 512 and it's only 341 KB. So it's within 1 MB, right? However, you did not uncheck this. So you have to uncheck the generate MIP map and also make sure that this is in 512, apply. Then you have to check on the AO map. So this one, you have to uncheck it. And then this one, you have to set it to 512. It's 128 KB. 128 plus 256. So as you can notice, the texture size also decrease whenever you set the max size and whenever you uncheck the generate MIP map option. You have to make sure that you always do that to reduce the file size and make it comply with the submission guideline in ZEPETO Studios. Now that I fixed that, let's now try again. Whenever you do that, you have to reconvert to ZEPETO style so that the changes will take effect, and then re-export it into ZEPETO file. And let's see now what will happen. So I have it here, and then let's try to submit. So as you can see, it went in, right? So there, you only need to make sure that your material is set to the settings. So that should fix the problem whenever you do that. So you have to make sure that you are complying with the submission guideline. I will discuss or elaborate on that later when we move on from this topic about the Unity errors. I pretty much discussed the most common Unity errors that you may encounter. If there's any other Unity errors that you may have encountered, feel free to ask me in the comment section below. Or my mentees, you can always DM me in band whenever you have questions regarding Unity conversion and any errors. And then we're gonna go ahead and discuss the submission guidelines. So you have to click or go to ZEPETO guide again. So from the very beginning up to until the end, you have to always rely on the guides. This is very important for you so that you can always comply with the submission guidelines. So under guide, you have to go here, submission guideline, then go to item guidelines. And then here, you will see that there's a thumbnail guideline. And there's also a item resource guideline, and there's also an item category guideline. I pretty much discussed this. This is basically the maximum polygon count value, or the triangle count that you have to consider whenever you model an item. So you already know what's this. And the other, if there's any other concern regarding the guidelines, for example, you submitted an item and you think or you believe that the item complied with all the submission guidelines listed here. You already checked every single item listed here, and you know that your item complied with all the guidelines. Then if ever that you have concern about your rejected items, you can always reach out to ZEPETO. So I think there's like this one, so you can access this if you want to reach out to them, submit a request, and then you can just select the category of what you're trying to inquire about. So for example, you have concern about build it or world, or maybe an error inquiry. So topic there. So under error inquiry, ZEPETO Studio. So you can just fill out this information, subject, description, and attachment if you have, and then submit it. You will get a notification, or you will get an answer through email that you will put here. So that's how you can reach out to ZEPETO. And then here, let's talk about the thumbnail guidelines. So item thumbnails let the user see a preview of the item before making a purchase. So it's very important that your item guideline is reliable. It is not misleading, so that whenever someone will see your item, they will know what you're actually selling, and they will know if they really want to buy it. Because if you have like a misleading thumbnail, you will either get your item taken down, or during the submission process, they will just reject it. They will not approve your item. So there is either of the two. You have to be careful. And You just need to comply. That's the important rule. Just need to comply with all the guidelines that ZEPETO put here. There's a reason why they set this rules here. They just want to ensure that we, all of us, the users, will have the best experience enjoying playing in ZEPETO. We have to be responsible creators. So the first rule here for thumbnail guideline is always to submit file that is 144 by 144 resolution. So I know that this is really small, but this is the guideline. We have to comply to it. Okay? And then it should always be PNG format. So the same with the texture file, ZEPETO does not accept any other image format other than PNG. So you should always make sure that your thumbnail is in PNG format. You cannot submit JPG or any other format, it will get rejected. And then the image size, it should be less than 1 MB. So same as the texture size, it should not exceed 1 MB. And then the ratio is square 1:1 and not really large. Since it's supposed to be a thumbnail, it does not need to be a really large image file. This one, it should have blank space. So you have to make sure that your thumbnail has a blank background. You cannot submit an item like this. It has a blue background, it will get rejected. Editing automatically generated thumbnails. If there are modifications needed in the auto-generated thumbnails, please make the edits before submission. So for example, there are certain items that does not have their actual category yet. So for example, if you notice, there's like items like jackets, right? But those items can be worn on top of other items like dresses or tops. Usually, if you submit like an outerwear or jacket, it cannot be worn with other tops or dresses. So there are certain items that are submitted using the glove category, like the one that I'm describing. So there, if ever that you submit it, the auto-generated thumbnail will look like will focus on the hand, since it's under the glove category. So if ever that you submit those kinds of items, you have to edit the thumbnail manually, so that the users will be able to see that you're actually selling like a jacket. Then just make sure that you're still following the guideline here. And there are certain rejection reasons here that they discuss. Number one, of course, if you do not meet the 144 by 144 thumbnail size, your thumbnail or your item will definitely get rejected. And then the next one, item image is too small. So this is the example. So the file size is already too small. So you want to make sure that your item is actually maximizing the size provided by ZEPETO. So you have to make it something like this, right? Avoid creating thumbnails like this. And the next is item images that get cut off, like this one. So you want to make sure that your item is not cut off. The picture is not cut off. If you have like a cut off thumbnail, it does not really look good when a ZEPETO user views it. The next rejection reason is graphics other than the items are added. So contains other additional elements. For example, there's like a shadow or highlights, or like you retouch it heavily and it does not look like the actual item. So that will definitely get rejected. You have to create an accurate thumbnail. Do not create any misleading thumbnail. And then it contains unrelated selling items to the thumbnail images, like any other items. So just avoid this one. So like this one, there's emoji, but the item does not really have this, right? It's just an additional element. And then the item background is not transparent. So you want to make sure that the background of your thumbnail is always transparent. And the next one, it deviates a lot from the auto-generated thumbnail style. So for example, you submitted like a footwear item, but you are creating a thumbnail that includes like the torso part of the avatar, right? So the footwear is not highlighted in your thumbnail. It will be misleading because users will have a hard time determining that you're actually selling a footwear, right? So you have to make sure that you only focus or emphasizing the actual item that you're selling. And then other than that, it expresses content unrelated to the item. So you always need to make sure you are not creating a misleading thumbnail and show not front images. So I would suggest to create thumbnail that are front facing. So that's all the item guidelines. And if you go here, if you access ZEPETO Studio, you have to always check this, especially if there's like a dot here. I think it's a yellow dot. It means that there's a new announcement. So there's actually a stricter guideline in terms of item thumbnail, because there's a lot of thumbnails in the creator shop that are not complying with the guidelines. So ZEPETO have to set a stricter rule regarding that. So there, you have to check this out. So there are incorrect example of the thumbnail. So for example, accessory item, lenses, lashes are applied in addition to the item being sold. So for example, this one, if you see it, you will ask, which item are they selling? Are they selling the lenses or the makeup item? So you're confused, right? But in actuality, they're only selling this item. So you have to make sure that you're only emphasizing or showing the actual item. And then so the glasses item, you can see that there's also hats, and there's the hair of the avatar is not the default hair, and it's applied together with the glasses, so it's confusing. What are they selling? Are they selling the hair, or are they selling the hat, or the glasses? So make sure that you are only showing the thumbnail of the actual item that you're selling. So the glasses thumbnail should look like this. So the default avatar wearing the white shirt, the default white shirt, and the hair is also the default hair, and it's only emphasizing the glasses that is worn by the default avatar. So there's nothing else here, right? So this is the correct thumbnail. And also this one, so heavily retouched thumbnail. So as much as possible, do not do any retouching work on the thumbnail. It will be misleading. It should look like this, what it actually looked like. My suggestion would be just use the auto-generated thumbnail, as long as it's actually showing the item that you're selling. Unless you have to make like modification, like what I told you earlier with the glove item. So there. So you have to avoid doing or following these incorrect examples. So that's it for the thumbnail. And I'm going to discuss the item resource guidelines. So any resources related to content such as item, file, polygon must meet the guidelines as outlined. So examples of resources that may get rejected. Resources that are incomplete. So as I mentioned repeatedly, you have to make sure that you are not missing any step in 3D creation. Do not miss the rigging, do not miss the masking, most especially those two. So guys, the only rule is to work smart but do not be lazy. That's the golden rule in 3D creation. Then resources that do not output correctly within ZEPETO services due to errors or special reasons. So I think the example of this is like the items with effects. So there are certain items with excessive effects that will cause the users do not have the best experience in playing ZEPETO, especially when they go to World. So if you notice, if you go to World and then there's someone wearing a lot of items with a lot of effects, it will make the world lag, right, or crash. Even you will get kicked out because it will crash. So we're trying to avoid that. Although there's already a setting in World that will allow you to disable the effects of the other users that are wearing it. Sometimes the users are just like intentionally wearing those items so that they can cause the other users to experience lagging issues. Good thing that ZEPETO created that option in World, so we can avoid those users from getting what they want. The next one is resources that exceed specs standardized by ZEPETO Studio, like what I mentioned earlier, the capacity, number of polygons, number of particles. So particles is for the effects. You want to make sure that you check this out. So this is the requirement or limit that ZEPETO provided for those items that will have effects. So you have to follow this. And then the number of joints, this one too, we already discussed it during our rigging lessons. So you have to make sure that the bone or the joint count is less than 100. And also this one, I just discussed it earlier. So you always need to uncheck the generate mipmap option and also set the max size to 512 so that you can reduce the file size. And there, the number of materials, max 5 within ZEPETO file. And other high capacity or excessive use of effects that can hinder a user's experience will be rejected. Especially with lighting effects, it's really hurtful to the eyes, right? If you experience that. So we're trying to avoid that. And file format does not meet ZEPETO Studio requirements. So as I mentioned, PNG file only for texture file. And you should always submit the ZEPETO file in ZEPETO Studio. Do not submit the FBX. Do not submit the prefab file. It will not be accepted. Only the ZEPETO file. and resources that already exist or under a review within the ZEPETO service. So this one, it talks more about copyright. So you cannot submit, you cannot imitate an item, especially if it's like a bestseller item that was promoted in the hot list or the pick list. You cannot submit the item that is an imitation to that, out of respect for the other creator. You may get reported, your item may get taken down if you do that. Always have integrity whenever you do anything, not only in ZEPETO. And there, that's it. That's the submission guideline. Basically, you have to check this out. I always check this, especially this, whenever I create item, because there might be some changes here. So you always need to make sure that you are compliant with the submission guideline and you are following the steps here. This is the reason why I rely too much on the 3D guide, because everything is here already. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.